in my opinion, is take you through this entire section of the storm here that's in that tornado warning and just track that whole thing for you and then break down if we're seeing any kind of new circulations. Okay, what's the speed on that? Are they still going like 50, 55?
Yes, right at 50 to the northeast.
Okay. So that puts it just a couple minutes into Union. Union, we've given you some good warning. Villa Ridge in about 10 minutes now. Pacific would be in about 18 minutes or so. Gets into Baldwin in about 32 minutes. Chesterfield about 28 minutes. St. Charles, we'll see if it holds together. That would be that northern flank there, and that's not where the rotation was. The rotation was right in here, coming in at Union. I do want to watch that southern flank too as that starts to develop. Again, these things happen so quickly. Kirkwood about 39 minutes. So as this moves through, tornado warning, weaker circulation, best thing to do, especially in the next 10 to 15 minutes if you're in that path from Union, Villa Ridge, Gray Summit, and I'd include Pacific. Let's get to safe shelter and be prepared for this. Hopefully move through just with strong winds. That's what we hope. Radar is a tool, and sometimes it notices that rotation, but it doesn't mean that it knows what's on the ground. The velocity, the Doppler winds that I look at here, this data helps me at least pinpoint where a rotation can be, but sometimes that rotation's above the ground. And it's kind of like wearing a seatbelt. You get in the car, you don't expect to get into an accident, but you buckle up just to be safe. So some of these spots that I'm mentioning, especially Union, let's buckle up and let's get to that safe shelter. I noticed too, to the north, they've really trimmed that tornado warning, Megan.
I want to mention to you that we've got sirens sounding now. The St. Charles County EOC is activating their outdoor warning sirens at this time. We've also gotten a note that in the Frontenac area, actually Crystal Lake Park, those sirens are going off as well. So that's well ahead of the warning, but those are outdoor warning systems, which is this is how they're intended to be used, to get people outdoors, indoors, as soon as possible. You're exactly right. And keep in mind that tornado warning does go into a significant portion here of St. Charles County. Look, there could be Little League games going on, and the St. Charles emergency managers are sounding the sirens because they want to make sure, or St. Peter's, whichever one is sounding the sirens, they want to make sure people get inside, get information. So yes, maybe the rotation was down here around Union to north of St. Clair, but even though this section near Washington, as it heads up into St. Charles County, isn't showing significant rotation, it could develop, and we just want people inside. So they're doing the right thing there. Just remember that siren, when you hear it, it's for our people outdoors, it means get inside. Tune us in here on Channel 4. We'll get you more information. St. Clair is just south of Union, near 44, and we have a crew out there that is on 44. Let's check in with them right now. Is it Emma Hogue that's in the Storm-Road Silverado? Hey, Emma, how you doing? What are you seeing, and where are you at?
Hey, Steve. Yeah, we are heading east on 44, very close to St. Clair. Let's flip the camera around and show you what we're seeing. Rain really starting to pick up as you're coming to us. Steady rain. But we've seen a few traffic backups here. We were just going about 25, 30 miles per hour. Traffic picking up now, but I really want to stress how quickly conditions are changing out here. We were heading west on 44 for a while. Around 5 o'clock, you saw just how dark the sky was. It was a torrential downpour. Cars getting off the exit. We had to get off for a little bit just until that rain subsided. So now we are heading east on 44. Probably approaching St. Clair here in about a minute or two, but almost hard to see out the windshield. That's how hard this rain is coming down. We, of course, will keep an eye on conditions for you, but for now, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Emma. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. You're watching extended special coverage of News 4 at 5 o'clock. We're in storm mode as we see a line of storms that's moving in towards the St. Louis area. Now, it's not into St. Louis yet, but it is into Washington, Sullivan, St. Clair, and you're going to notice a couple red boxes. I'm not noticing one area of those tornado warnings that represents a red box, that represents a real tight circulation and a specific area where we're likely dealing with a tornado. But I think anywhere along this line, you can end up with circulations that produce a tornado. It's one of the reasons why we're staying on the air. As this line approaches, a circulation and thus a tornado can develop momentarily, and it actually can only last a minute, seconds, sometimes 5 minutes. Typically, these squall line tornadoes are weak and brief. We have had experiences in the past where they've been much stronger. I think a lot of people remember May 31st, 2013, Southern St. Charles County, Whitmore Country Club, Earth City. That one actually hit the airport too, not the terminal. It was a different one. Airport's been hit several times. So we have to watch for these circulations to see if they strengthen. We have crews out in the field, and one of those crews is Kim St. Ange. She's out in Warren County right now. Are you still in Warrenton?
Yeah, we're still in Warrenton. We're actually pulled over just so we're safe. I'm telling you, I have to show you this. This is a dramatic difference from about 45 seconds ago. Look at this, the rain really coming down here in Warrenton. We just heard the sirens going off about a minute ago, signaling that tornado warning that we are in right now in Warren County. That wind also blowing that rain around. And if you see the tree over there to my right, that'd be on your right side of your screen, that gives you some indication of the wind I'm talking about. So our wipers are working really hard. It looks like there's still some cars on I-70, but thankfully I can actually tell there's a couple right underneath that overpass that look to have pulled over, because I can imagine that driving conditions, that visibility that you would have with this strong of wind and rain would make it very difficult and just downright dangerous to be driving in. So if you're in this area, I would suggest pulling over just like we are, because this is not safe to be driving in right now. But like I said, this just started up within the last probably 60 seconds ago, maybe to 2 minutes.
Appreciate it, and probably good advice, pulling over. You don't want hydroplane, can't see very well. Thank you. That's Kim St. Ange in Warrenton, and I've been checking in on the radar for you as well. I don't see any significant rotation. I know you're barely in the southern flank of that northernmost tornado warning, but I'm not seeing any real significant rotation there or anywhere within that tornado warning anymore. However, a little farther south, this rotation near Union that fizzled out, there's a new one to the south that is strengthening. First thing I want to do is take care of our crews, because we have, I believe it's Emma that's down there in St. Clair. Guys, can you check in with Emma and find out if she is actually east of St. Clair right now?
On the southwest side.
She's on the southwest side?
I've got her on the southwest side on 44 on the southwest side of St. Clair.
Okay. So I'm not seeing any immediate reason for her to pull over, but I want them to be head on a swivel, keeping an eye on things. And I'll show you just north of St. Clair, so actually about a couple miles north of their position, where there is an area of concern to at least monitor within that tornado warning. Take a closer look at Skytracker Doppler radar, and I'll highlight this for you. What you're going to notice as we take this full, you'll see the red box that represents the warning. Buried within it, there was a brief, what looked like on radar, a spin up, possibly a tornado, but we haven't had any confirmation of that. It looked strong. It fizzled out right away. That was the one that came up through Union. Then down a little farther south, see that little knob right there, that little notch? Right in there, just to the south and southeast of Union now. And let's turn on the velocity data and take a closer look. Thank you for zooming in. That's meteorologist Megan Danahey, kind of monitoring the radar, working the radar for us. There is Highway 50. There's Krakow. So just to the east of Krakow, let's zoom out a little bit and look even a little farther down south. There may be a couple circulations. Nope, the one near St. Clair. So she's good. I've got her good. So she's right around here, Emma. She's going to be fine. It's right here just north of 50, or maybe right along 50 where it connects with 44. So that's going to slide up towards Gray Summit. So what I want to do is be real specific on the location of this and where it's going. We're hearing that sirens are going off in Afton and sirens are going off in downtown. Let me tell you this, right now, this is our best bet for a tornado, and it's not a high-end signature, and it's out near Union. There's going to be sirens going off in a lot of locations. That means get inside, turn on Channel 4. We'll let you know what's going on and what to monitor. This is from Sullivan, where we saw looks like even a little hail falling there. But let's get back to the radar there.
There's Washington.
Oh, there's Washington. Wow, it's just absolutely pouring, isn't it? Washington's getting hammered as we speak.
I mean, just sheets of rain and maybe some small hail mixed in there, possibly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised
This is
based on radar.
just kind of a look. I'm scanning, you can't see the river.
And so we're looking at the BJC Skycam network at Washington, Missouri, getting hammered by probably some heavy rain, maybe some small hail, and the gusty winds. That's going to be the threat for the damage out of that particular cell if you're in Washington. So if there's some areas where you're hearing the sirens go off, it may not even be storming in your area at all. Check this out. We've got Afton and downtown don't have the sirens going off. We've had some reports, but the storm's well off to the west. So it's going to take a while, but the sirens mean, hey, if you're outside, there could be Little League games, there could be people doing stuff outside. get inside, turn on Channel 4, we'll tell you what's going on. And what's going on is this little area right here, just to the southeast of Union. This is right where Highway 50 connects with 44. That's an area where concern for rotation, potential tornado. We don't have anything reported. It is Doppler indicated at this point, but it definitely has our interest. And I'm going to move it at about 50 miles to 55 miles per hour. Have you seen any speeds slow down at all? Are we still in that 50 to 55?
Right in the 50. Hold close to 50.
50,
yeah,
okay.
50.
So is this east or northeast? It's more east. Okay. Probably that rotation is north of Eureka in about 18 minutes. Let's zoom in a little closer.
We did just get a 55 mile per hour wind in Washington as I was showing you that camera. So 55 is close to that severe criteria, around 58. So the wind's really howling in Washington.
Gray Summit, about 6 minutes. North Eureka, in about, that would be like right around 109, Eureka High School, in about 18 minutes. And what I'm going to do is just give you an idea of when that might get into downtown. We've got the Blues game coming up in about an hour. And if you have friends or family that are lucky enough to have tickets to a great game, hopefully tonight, 43 minutes, it's into downtown. So when that line gets in, it could be right around that time when a lot of folks are going from their car to the Enterprise Center. So give them a call, give them a text if you know anyone going to the game. Tell them, hey, you got to pay attention to the radar. KMOV weather app, check the radar. Make sure that you're not out ahead of this line or you're inside the Enterprise Center before that line hits. If you're getting hit by that and you're in your car, you got a shelter in place, stay in your car. Probably, especially if you saw from Washington, Missouri, let's pop that back up, where the winds were gusting at 50 miles per hour, you'd want to put your head down. It's done now, it's done. But you want to put your head down so if anything busted the glass, you don't get scraped or hurt by that. That's a bad situation. We don't want you put in that situation. That's why we're saying if anyone's going to the game, you got to get into the Enterprise Center before that line hits. And we do think that's about 43 minutes. Look how quickly that went from 55 mile an hour gusts to nothing. I mean, the flags are calm out there. And I think that's a good example. Sorry, Meg, I'm taking over here. I'm going to put the radar back on in a minute. But look at the flags. That's a good example of how this thing hits and then it's done. And when it hits, the two things we really need to watch for, the damaging winds and potential for a tornado. And it's difficult tracking these tornadoes because they form and dissipate so quickly. We do have 2 tornado warnings still going. The biggest area of concern right now is right here now east of Union. And I'm going to zoom back in and get rid of the boxes. I always switch over to these winds within the storm so I can get a better read on if the rotation has strengthened. And it looks about the same. So what I'm going to do is track that off to the east and get you a bunch of cities that are in the path of not only potential for some straight line winds here, but the potential for a circulation to tighten and develop a tornado. It's a tornado warning. We don't have anything spotted on the ground. Radar is giving us a clue that this thing could develop a tornado, but nothing on the ground right now. Gray Summit, 3 minutes. Pacific, 7 minutes. Eureka, about 13 minutes. So what do you do with that information when I say, hey, it's not on the ground, but it's headed your way and could? You play it safe. It's like buckling up. You don't think you're going to get into an accident every time you get in your car and buckle up, but you buckle up anyway just to play it safe. So in those cities, yeah, head for the basement, head to your safe shelter, let this thing pass. We just showed you from Washington, Missouri, how quickly it moves in, and then it rains, but the wind really eases up. I mean, it hits hard and fast, and it's done. So take 20 minutes out of your day to put you and your family in a safe spot. Let this thing pass. Let's hope it doesn't strengthen and doesn't produce a tornado. In the meantime, other cities downstream, Chesterfield in about 22 minutes, Manchester in about 22 minutes as well. About a half hour into Kirkwood, you see Florissant in about 40 minutes. And it's updating as we speak. And it's particularly this area that's coming right into Gray Summit that we'll be watching. That's really the area of concern. What do we see on the right-hand side of the screen, guys? Is that storm mode Silverado? No, that's Emma Hogue on I-44. If you recall, we were making sure that her location was safe because she was in St. Clair, and indeed she is. As I switch over to the normal radar you're used to seeing, this is the area of concern for a possible tornado. There is a tornado warning there, and it's moving to the northeast. Our crew is doing this. And we're going to continue to make sure that they stay south of that area. And again, it's not reported on the ground. Now you're looking out in Warrenton, another one of our crews. We also have crews in the city that'll monitor this line as it pushes in and on into the city. And potentially could produce some damaging straight line winds. And again, we'll have to watch for tornadoes.
Mammatus showing up on our BJC sky camera. You know, those scary looking mammatus clouds are starting to show up. If we could take my graphics computer, there we are, the Central West End. That's our BJC sky camera on St. Louis Children's Hospital. We're looking west over the park toward Clayton, and you can see at the very top of your screen there, at the very top of your screen, you've got those rounded clouds. These are the only clouds that are formed by sinking air, and sometimes they indicate some pretty nasty storms. So I just wanted to take a look at those at Mammatus. Of course, not raining at Forest Park just yet, but that is certainly going to change soon.
Well, we continue this line marching its way across the area and towards St. Louis. It still does have 2 tornado warnings on it, but we've kind of broken down those tornado warnings to show you exactly what we're watching for a couple areas of circulations. We don't have anything spotted on the ground. This one up in Lincoln County, will you do me a favor and keep an eye on that on your Max 2? Let me know if you spot anything up there. I've been focused on that stronger circulation, and
that they're going to expire that one.
They're going to expire it. Okay,
yep.
That's good. So
circulation is weakened there.
That's up into Lincoln County. Straight line winds still a threat, but they're going to expire that tornado warning. This tornado warning, the focus in the area of interest is just to the east of Union, kind of riding, you know, where 50 and 44 connect, and then riding up 44 towards, say, Six Flags, and eventually towards Pacific. Gray Summit would be in the way of that storm. I'm continuing to track all these storms, and specifically any areas along this line that develop circulations that could be a tornado. That's why we're in storm mode, and we're going to continue with News 4 at 6 o'clock right now. News 4 at 6 continues. We're going to continue to track this line as it moves in. Let's get an idea of the track on that line of storms. Meg, will you do me a favor and do kind of a broad track on that? And I'm going to go in and get an idea of some of the cities in the path.
Yep, I'm going to take the warnings off so we can just kind of get a clean view of what's happening. You can see it's a large line stretching from up around Bowling Green back down through Troy. Let me put a large track on this.
While you do that, we're looking at video from Warrenton from one of our crews that's out there. They're in a safe spot. Guys, I got to tell you, stop. Let's zoom in just to the northeast of Union. We've got tightened rotation down there. This is going to be now north of Gray Summit and south of Augusta.
All right, so you want me to move that track?
Yep. I'm going to focus on a tightening rotation and potential tornado threat that is north of Villa Ridge, south of Augusta, northwest of Gray Summit. See this curl right here? And there's the Missouri River. So there's Augusta, there's Villa Ridge. Probably some heavy rain and hail on that northern flank, but it's right here that we're watching for. And that is a significantly stronger rotation. Let's put it at about 50, 55 miles an hour, and let's do the aero tracker and give folks in St. Albans a heads up. And eventually, I think it's more northeast, so eventually this comes up into kind of just north of Wildwood.
All
but
right,
again,
so
stronger rotation, St. Albans, about 5 minutes. If you're in Villa Ridge, this is north of you, and you're in the clear from the rotation. You're getting hit with strong winds and heavy rain. If you're in Augusta, this is really close and moving to the northeast, so it's really just across the river that rotation is going to move across, and maybe potentially a tornado. But St. Albans in the next 5 minutes. We were mentioning some cities up 44 like Pacific and Eureka. Notice how this curled up. If you're in Augusta, you need to be inside, away from windows, down the basement immediately. This is strengthening. That is a much stronger signal right now, and there's potentially a tornado on the ground on the south side of Augusta, if not right over the Missouri River. If you're in Pacific and Eureka, this has moved to the north. This is one of the things that can happen with these squall line tornadoes. The actual line is right here. And what's happened is the rotation started here, and it started working north up the line. So it's moving with the line, but did you see how it moved just due north? So let's put a track on that at about 50 miles per hour. That's going to cross 94.
So that's more up in this direction.
Yeah, maybe a little more north.
More north? Okay.
Thank you.
And I probably need to widen that view. Let me just
go for it.
Let me just do over.
In the meantime, if you're in Washington, you're in the clear. If you're in Union, you're in the clear. We have a crew that is south of this in a safe spot down on 44. And we have another crew that is actually going to be west of it. So I'm talking to my production team and to the newsroom right now. Emma's down on 44. She's going to miss that, but if there's any damage on the Missouri side, she can get to that. As this progresses to the northeast, let's make sure that our crew that was in Warrenton doesn't run into this as it comes up towards St. Charles County. Let's keep them at bay off to the west, and if there's damage, they can come down 70 and eventually down 40/64 and check out on any damage.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I just want to let you know that I'm in the chat room. I'm talking to our friends at the National Weather Service in St. Louis. A potentially large tornado on the ground now south of Augusta. They're going to be upgrading the tornado warning, saying that there is a very distinct debris ball now on that storm, which basically means on the radar that they're looking at, a debris ball means that they are seeing some debris lofted up into the atmosphere. So that is further indication that there is a tornado on the ground doing damage.
I've popped up our BJC Skycam network here. Will you hop on Max 2 and move that around? But that is looking to the southwest. So this is up near 40 and 64, and there's Highway K. And we want to kind of pan a little bit more to the south and look down to the south. But we're, as soon as I saw that, yeah, now we've got a debris ball. So what this means is there is likely a tornado on the ground in Augusta. It's crossed the Missouri River. This thing strengthened so quickly. And it developed on a line that produced what looked like might produce a weak tornado, and all of a sudden weakened, fizzled out, and then all of a sudden this thing developed.
Over Defiance, moving northeast at 45.
Okay.
Speed is 45.
And speed's 45. That slowed down a little bit.
A little bit. They are confirming a large and dangerous tornado because of that debris signature that we're seeing.
So right there. Right here, I'm going to highlight it for you. This is basically getting ready to cross 94. See that dark, oh, there it is. It's on 94. It's that dark spot right there. What's happening is that's not hail and rain. It's hail, rain, and stuff in the air. It could be tree limbs. It could be parts of roofs, shingles. So the bottom line is if you're in Augusta, I still need you in the basement. One of the things you can do as you're in the path of this storm is you can turn up the volume on your TV and head to the basement or your safe shelter, or grab the iPad and grab an iPhone. We're live streaming. Just look for News 4 Live on the KMOV Weather app or KMOV News app. We'll be here on that live stream while you're in your shelter if you don't have a TV so that you can continue to follow what's happening. And I'll mention when you're in the clear. Not in the clear in Augusta. This is 94. We are zoomed in really tight, so let me explain what's happening here. This is Interstate 44. This is the Missouri River right here. This is 94 that goes right through Augusta, wine country in southern St. Charles County. 94 eventually comes up to hook up towards St. Charles. So that's where it is, just west of St. Albans. And it's curling up the line. So instead of moving due east, it's curling up the line into Schlossberg there. That's going to be the next spot. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. And the other thing I'm going to do is check our debris tracker. Ooh, that's a big signal right there.
Yep, I've got our camera up. I don't see anything at the moment, but I've got it from O'Fallon pointed to the south at Progress West Hospital.
Thank you. And let's check all our other cameras, Missouri Baptist Medical Center, even Washington looking off to the northeast. So what you're looking at is the radar seeing stuff in the air that's not the same size. Unfortunately, what that means is it's not all raindrops, it's not all hail, it's pieces of debris. So it could be parts of a farm, could be trees, could be leaves, could be houses. That's happening right now on 94, just to the east of Augusta. And that is a signature, a tornado debris signature. So radar is a tool that can actually, without even seeing it on the ground, tell us a tornado has hit. Let me give you the big picture here as I zoom out a little bit. Here's the big picture as right here is our tornado. Along this line, we could still develop further circulations. And Meg, I know you're working the BJC Skycams. You're doing an awesome job. Can you also keep an eye on any further circulations, either north or south? Because I'm going to focus on this one right now. But I appreciate you. Just holler at me if you see something new. That's the circulation where there's likely a tornado on the ground. That is in extreme southern, southwestern St. Charles County. And it's getting ready to cross Interstate 64 and Highway 40 as it curls up the line. We'll watch for new circulations anywhere along the line. That has our focus right now. That's where I'm going to zoom in, and we'll get some tracks on this and show you what's going on.
Just a quick scan of the line all the way up and down. That is by far the most important area to focus on right now.
Okay.
By far.
Thank you for the heads up there. And what I'm going to do is slow this down and get a good trajectory on this because it was moving northeast and then it curled. You can even see it curl. Okay, so this is going to be about 45 miles per hour. I tell you what, this is a little bit reminiscent of May 31st, 2013. The storm came about this way through Whitmore Country Club and ran right over. See that radar? That's where the National Weather Service is. So it's possible that they're going to have to hand off services to the Kansas City office for a little bit.
They're talking to Kansas City now.
They're doing it. Yeah, that's smart because they need to be in their safe shelter. But that is where, see that darkness right there? That's a debris ball. Here's the curl. So there's a rotation right here. I got to tell you, if anyone lives in this area that's crazy enough to think you want to go storm chase, don't. This has happened before. Don't do it. And here's why. It's curled into the rain. So it may be rain-wrapped, and you might not see anything. On top of the fact you're just putting yourself in a really bad position. That bright blue spot is the debris in the air. So this is our debris tracker. It's one of the advantages of radar. It can actually see stuff in the air when the stuff doesn't look the same. So instead of little round droplets or little round pieces of hail, there's long, oblong pieces of wood. There's leaves in the air. That tells us, coupled with some other information as we analyze the radar, that that is a tornado debris signature. It's on 94 and lifting to the north-northeast. And if you're in Matson, it's headed your way next. We are zoomed in really tight on southern St. Charles County on 94 right there. It is going to be crossing Highway F near Schlossberg in about 4 minutes. 4 minutes into Highway F. Let's zoom out a little bit more and get, if you're in New Melly, you got to watch this. And it's not typical. I mean, it should pass to the east, but you just got to watch in New Melly here if this thing curls up more north than more northeast. But there it is in southern St. Charles County. Okay, so here's the Boom Bridge. Here's Chesterfield Valley. Got to be watching that closely because, again, if this isn't curling north, it's going northeast. It could be crossing into the Chesterfield Valley. There's a lot of sporting fields out there, soccer fields, baseball fields. If you know anybody that hasn't already had a Little League game canceled, a softball game, a soccer game, and you know they've got practice or games out there, give them a call and let them know that we've got likely a tornado on the ground just to the southwest. And if that were to get into those soccer fields, we'd be talking very close in about 15 minutes. And the reason I say if is I'm still a little unsure exactly if it's going to curl a little more north. That looks like the path right there. That looks like the path to the northeast, but I'm just concerned that it starts to curl up the line, which is common with these squall line type tornadoes. That big ball you see right there, that is the debris ball. So it's not just heavy rain, and it's sliding up towards Weldon Spring. That would be Research Park in about 15 minutes. I've spent a lot of time zoomed in, very specific. I'm going to zoom out and give a little more time for folks downstream and a heads up. Let's start with a track at about 45 miles per hour, a little farther downstream. You'll see some cities, Hamburg in about 9 minutes. We mentioned Weldon Spring in about 15 minutes, although again into the Weather Service and Research Park a little earlier than that. We've got our Skycam there. That is Progress West Hospital.
West. I'm going to just kind of scan. I've
Please
been looking.
Do. That's great.
I just see some scuddy, kind of scraggly looking clouds. I don't really see anything with this camera that would indicate a tornado on the ground, but there's a lot of trees in that way as well. Yeah,
and radar does. I got to be honest, I'm still seeing a pretty strong signature here. It just updated a little bit to the northeast. So this path is probably still valid. I just think the timing's going to change. So bear with me here as on radar I switch over and see that blue and red spot? You don't need a degree to figure it out. That's where the tornado is. And what's happening here is there's the radar. The red are raindrops flying away from the radar. The green and blue is flying towards, and they're going really fast right next to each other. That doesn't happen in nature. Raindrops flying at, who knows, maybe 80, 100 miles an hour or more past each other like on a 2-lane highway. What that is indicating is rotation. These are rotating away, these are rotating towards. And so that is our clear signature. We've got a tornado on Highway 94 in southern St. Charles County. If you're in Augusta, I still need you in the basement. You still need to be in your safe spot. Meg, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're confirming that circulation is completely rain wrapped. So you're just not going to be able to see this thing.
Matson moving in right now, and Schlossberg right up 94.
So the priority would be to take shelter immediately. You're not going to be able to see this thing very well.
If you're in St. Albans, it rotated up to the north of you. You're in the clear from this rotation. If you're in Augusta, you're in the clear. Give it another couple minutes. Still some heavy rain and heavy winds. Matson, Schlossberg, and anywhere along Highway F in St. Charles County now in 1 minute to 2 minutes. So, and think of where 94 and Highway F crosses, and I know not everyone knows this area, but the people who do need this information. That would be in about 1 to 2 minutes. If you live anywhere from around Highway DD, just north when it splits off of 94, that's in about 4 minutes. If you're in Hamburg, if it hits Hamburg or maybe near and just to the north, in about 7 minutes. Okay, I promised I was going to zoom out and give kind of a longer track here. As I do, let's get a look at the path. Look at that thing just develop.
Steve?
Yes?
They are confirming that the debris signature was confirmed as high as 10,000 feet in the air, which means that debris was lofted quite high. Whatever it hit, whatever it messed up, it brought that debris up really high into that thunderstorm.
So here's a kind of a three-dimensional slice of this storm. And what they're saying is that this is rain, but it gives us an idea of how the storm acts and behaves. So this is rain up to, that's 10,000 to 20,000. So you've got a tornado that lifted debris up above 10,000 feet. Now, sometimes that debris is lightweight, and that might be the reason why it lifted so high. And sometimes it is actually a sign of the really strong tornado lifting air up. I'm going to get back to the normal radar you're used to seeing and take a closer look on Doppler winds. Yep, and I'm also going to switch over to our terminal Doppler. This is a radar based out of Lambert Airport. It's usually used for wind shear. It only works really close up because it's really meant for airplanes, and we're getting that signature right there. It actually just weakened a little bit, but that would be the signature right there. And let's hope that weakens and weakens quickly. I'll go back to the typical radar. We'll get a scan here and see if this updates. And in the meantime, I was working on the trajectory here. Yeah, man, it bounced a little bit north, but it's kind of more north-northeast. And that would be crossing 64 now in about 11 minutes. That Progress West hospital camera, guys, let's get that up too.
I've
keep
got
an eye
it
on it.
She's, yep. I'm working on it. Where is it? It is not that one.
Let's spin that back to like the south-southwest. If you're just joining us, I'm going to zoom out and give you the big picture here, and I'm going to stay on this kind of colored Doppler winds view of the radar. But we are in storm mode because of a tornado likely on the ground in southern St. Charles County. This strengthened so quickly right over Augusta. Augusta, you're in the clear. The rotation is just to the north of you. If you live on the northeast side, though, you're not in the clear quite yet. This is out near Matson. It's crossing 94 and Highway F, and eventually in a few minutes into Highway DD as it splits off of 94. Then in about 10 minutes, it's going to be getting into Interstate 64. So there's the big picture.
The Defiance needs to be in safe spot.
There's the line, and within that line, you're going to see me zoom in on the exact area of concern and why we've stayed on the air.
Ooh, the skies are dark in that O'Fallon, that Progress West.
There's the tornado warning. There's a lot of areas that are going to have sirens going off. I understand that, but this is where the tornado threat is. And as it moves to the northeast, this is probably going to stay south of Wentzville, but more in the Weldon Spring into St. Peter's area. If it holds together, it would be probably near Interstate 70 in 20 minutes. The reason I mention that, we've got a crew in 70, on 70 in Warrenton. Let's make sure they don't run into that, guys. So there's the timing.
Can we take that camera full, that BJC?
Yeah, you're looking south.
Yeah, I'm looking south. Let me widen the view for you there, Steve.
Thank you.
trying to, it looks a lot nastier there than it did just a few minutes ago.
Definitely some lowering. I don't see a tornado at all, and I don't see any tight rotation. But of course, we may be spying a different part of the storm.
If you go back to the southwest a little bit, you start to get into those trees.
So, tornado warning continues. St. Charles County is where we have this threat. So, while the warning is extended into St. Louis County, West County, Wildwood, you're in the clear from this particular tornado threat. I'm still watching a line of storms that's hitting Eureka to Wildwood now, up and down 109. I am not seeing any rotation there. In fact, as I zoom out a little bit, I'm not seeing any other significant areas of rotation. I'm staying with these Doppler winds because it helps me pinpoint where that rotation is, right there in southern St. Charles County. And this is just northwest of St. Albans. It's across the river and probably very close now to Highway F, just a minute away from Highway F in southern St. Charles County, just east of Schlossberg. Okay, so let me switch over to the typical radar you're used to seeing. Looks like this is starting to update a little farther off to the east. Let me get back to the terminal Doppler, and let me loop that. This might give me an idea if this thing is weakening or staying really strong.
They think it might be cycling right now, that it may have just cycled down.
Yes, yeah.
Which I think is clear in
down.
that they think that it may have they're worried about it reforming after this, about it tightening up again.
And you're looking at the BJC Skycam network on the right-hand side of your screen from Progress West Hospital in O'Fallon.
This is a new tornado warning coming out, Steve.
Okay, they're probably just going to extend it.
Yeah.
But the camera is right about here, and that's what it's looking at. And remember, Megan said, the Weather Service had confirmed with us that this is likely rain-wrapped. So what you're looking at is a shroud of rain, and then behind it is the rotation. But that rain, that darkness you see just off on the right-hand side of your screen, that would be it. Zoom actually a little bit farther south.
Yeah, I'm just scanning.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find something in there.
No, you're doing fine. And so you wouldn't actually see necessarily the tornado. It can start to pop out on the leading edge, and all of a sudden you see that rotation. I'm not seeing any of it there.
It's just murky with rain.
And we think that this storm is cycling. And what that means is there's strong rotation. It fizzles out a little bit. And then by cycling means it can actually spark back up. That's a good view there, too, looking to the south. We'll keep an eye on that.
They are talking about larger hail with this. It's basically the storm is over Weldon Spring, moving northeast at that 45 is the current speed. They're talking about a threat of ping pong size hail. I haven't heard much. I'm getting power flashes now. Oh, that was a report.
And from New Melly,
Augusta.
we're getting reports too of power lines down.
Yeah.
But that rotation, my hope is that it has fizzled out a little bit, and there's maybe no tornado on the ground. We don't know that for sure right now, and it's actually going right over the radar. Have they handed off to Kansas City? They've got to be in their safe shelter.
We are good here at the office.
Okay.
I think the tornado has briefly lifted. They're staying in control of operations right now.
Okay. So they're seeing what we're seeing, where it's weakening. They feel safe as it, I mean, this is so reminiscent of May 31st, 2013. It went right over and Weldon Spring and our radar right here. Here's New Melly on the left-hand side of your screen. Just got reports of some power lines down out there. That was going to be from straight line winds. This is another factor of these storms that we haven't been focused on too much because of this earlier large, dangerous tornado on the ground near Augusta, Missouri. It now looks like it's weakened a little bit, so the tornado threat is much lower. But there are still some strong winds that came through New Melly and took down some power lines. So just a heads up, while we focus on this threat for a tornado that's right over Weldon Spring now, anywhere along this line, there is that potential for winds to take down power lines. And now I'm hearing that the sirens are going off in Kirkwood. As this moves off to the northeast, let's put it at about 50. You see it into O'Fallon. It's now. High Ridge in 6 minutes. Into Florissant in about 24 minutes, downtown in about 29 minutes. It is 6:20 right now. We're getting ready for an important Blues game, and we've gotten downtown about 25 minutes now. We'll have this line. So hopefully people are getting into Enterprise Center before this hits. Timing-wise, that's good news. What's really bad news is really strong signature near Augusta and southern St. Charles County and likely some damage. Do you have some new information?
And you mentioned the National Weather Service office, which is right there in Weldon Spring. Yep. They had a rapid motion wall cloud, a rapidly rotating wall cloud go right over their office.
Okay, so what that means is they have rotation.
Rotation, but not on the ground.
Not on the ground is good, but rapidly rotating wall cloud means it still could be cycling. And that just moved right over them, they said, or they can see it probably from...
Just passed over the office, they say.
Okay. So there is the radar, and it is right on top. So what this means is a wall cloud is kind of a lowering, and we're watching for that on that BJC Skycam network. We're not going to see it now because we're getting hit by the rain. So the rain has started there in O'Fallon, right on 64 near Highway K. But what's happening here is the air is going up into the storm so fast, it's creating this little cloud that's lower to the ground. That's a wall cloud, and it's spinning. That's a precursor, sometimes, not always, but precursor to a tornado. What it might be is that this storm produced a tornado, fizzled out a little bit, but still rotating, and could produce a tornado at any moment. And so that's why we're not letting our guard down. We got to stay on this for friends in Cottleville, and this heads up through St. Peter's and into St. Charles City. We're going to stay with this. It's one of the reasons why we're still on the air. We've got crews on the ground from Interstate 70. We'll check in with them shortly when we can. Interstate 44 coming back up towards the city and following this storm. We'll check in with them when we can. And you can see there a view of, it's got to be Interstate 70? Oh, 64. Okay, that's 64 West. And who do we have out there, guys? That's Russell. Okay, so that's a new crew. That's Russell. And I would check in with St. Charles County EM. I would bet that there's some damage in the wine country there out near Augusta. But Russell is on 64 headed towards Chesterfield. Let me switch over to the velocity data. He's going to miss any kind of rotation. He's going to be in the southern flank of, but he's going to get hit hard. You can see the dark skies from his view there.
Well,
so
you can, if you...
He's driving into that. Rotation would be right about here and is going to lift up to the north towards Interstate 70. Once again, let's make sure we protect our crew that was in Warrenton. I don't want them driving into this and then all of a sudden hit that rotation. I think you guys have that under control. Just mentioning again, thanks to our crews in the back. Really appreciate all you're doing and directing those crews.
I was just going to point out the Progress West camera. We saw it a minute ago. You could clearly see the interstate, and now it's completely washed out.
Yeah, so that's looking to the east from Progress West Hospital and the BJC Skycam network. That's in O'Fallon. So it's right off of Interstate 64 near Highway K. And so we're looking back towards the city. And, I mean, usually you can see the interstate's right there and nothing. So that's how heavy the rain is. That rain can come with strong damaging winds as well. And then, of course, the rotation would actually be back off to the east, a little bit northeast. So Meg has been spinning this around, kind of keeping an eye on things, but haven't seen that rotation from that particular camera, which would be probably leaving Weldon Spring and moving towards 70 and St. Peter's. It's in O'Fallon now and very close to Cottleville. I would track it probably into, this would be like downtown Cottleville in about 5 minutes, and that would be the rotation that could create another tornado if it's cycling.
Did you hear that, Steve?
No, go ahead.
Lambert International Airport is halting departures and landings.
Okay.
Obviously, because of the severe weather coming in.
Yeah, and because even if they don't get a tornado, we're talking about straight line winds that, you know, going in, we were thinking there was a potential for 70 to 75 mile an hour wind gusts. You do not need people and airplanes on a tarmac when that happens. I'm going to slow this down and show you what happened and where it happened and where we're tracking for anything next. You see News 4's Russell Kinsall checking out the real dark clouds looking to the Chesterfield Valley area. He's on 64.
I've pulled up our Barnes Jewish St. Peter's camera, just trying to take a look at those skies as well.
Okay. And on the radar, what you're doing is I'm reconstructing the path of this tornado, especially since it went right over the, fizzled out, but then the rotation went right over our radar. It's going to help give me an idea of where it's at now. There it is. So this is southern St. Charles County and Missouri River right here. This is Interstate 64, where we were looking at Russell's view earlier. Now you're looking at BJC Skycam network from St. Peter's, which is near the Mid-Rivers Mall, and looking south at this. So let's make sure we keep an eye on that camera. That's St. Peter's. That's BJC St. Peter's. It's basically, if the rotation is going to create another tornado, it's basically going to be over 64 or just north of 64 at this point and headed towards I-70. That is the view from 64. Wow, okay, Russell's in it now as far as the heavy rain. He is not near where the rotation is, and I have news for us, Russell Kinsall with me. Russell, you're in some really heavy rain, and if you feel like you guys need to pull over, do it. But I want you to know that we have you in a position where you're not near the rotation. What are you seeing?
Well, the rain just picked up. It's very heavy, and we're hearing some hail also. There are cars that are pulling over, as you can see, but we are going west, are just passing Chesterfield, and we're coming up on the river here pretty soon. The football fields and baseball fields are here to our right as we're heading west on 6440. But it was really dark to our north, and as you were talking about how we were in a safe position, we could tell we were passing to the south, the most intense part of that storm where there could be that rotation, but we could see it off to our north. Right now, the sky is a little bit lighter, not quite as dark. Rain has lifted just a little bit. Hail didn't last very long. Just several different pieces of hail hit our vehicles, but then that was it.
Well, it's a nasty storm for sure, and you're in some of those real intense winds. But again, you're not near that rotation, which is great news. You are going to be near where there perhaps was some damage, and I know that's one of the things you'll be looking into to confirm for us. That southern part of St. Charles County near 94 in Augusta is where we saw that real strong tornado debris signature on radar. I'm sticking with these Doppler winds. And I know it's not traditional. We don't like to show this too often. It's confusing. It's helping me help you by pinpointing exactly where the rotation is. And you see the bright spots? See that bright spot? So that's the tornado. Fizzles out right here. This is Weldon Spring. This is 64. And then it's going to reemerge right here on the north flank of the radar. This hole is the radar because the radar doesn't look up. It scans out. So right above it, there's a cone of silence. That's why there's a hole right there. And I'm still not seeing a real strong signature. But let me show you something. When I switch over to that radar that's over at the airport, which is usually used for wind shear and specifically for the airport, it doesn't go out very far. Starting to get two areas that I want to watch. One is just west of Cottleville. These are subtle, I know. But right here, this one's not as much of a concern, actually. It's that little small spot near Cottleville. And let me see what that looks like on the radar. That's buried in rain there. Okay. So if there is a small circulation, it's probably buried in rain, and at this point, it looks rather weak. Let's hope it doesn't, what we call cycle, which means it turns back into a pretty intense rotating storm. This cycling happens with rotating storms, including even hurricanes. They cycle too. They weaken, they strengthen, they weaken, they strengthen. On a much smaller scale, tornadoes can do the same thing. Let me give you the big picture here as I zoom out, because we've got a line of storms working its way into St. Louis. We've got a tornado warning on the northern flank there. And I've heard of sirens going off in Afton, Kirkwood, Ellisville,
Hazelwood,
downtown, a lot of areas that aren't threatened by the tornado. The tornado's up in St. Charles County, and if it's there still, and it's not a strong signature, it's in St. Peter's and headed near Interstate 70. So this line of storms can still produce damaging winds. And those sirens, they're outdoor sirens. They're not tornado sirens. So they may be going off because the emergency management or whoever sets them off wants you to stay safe. There could be folks out, Little League games, outdoor activities. They just want you inside. So we're on the air continuing to track what is now, is that not one of the biggest severe thunderstorm warnings you've ever seen?
Just
wow.
Coming in.
But this happens, and it's smart, and here's why. This big area of yellow is a new severe thunderstorm warning because basically it's this entire line right here that can produce those damaging winds. Then on the northern flank, that'll be our focus in St. Charles County to see if anything flares up as far as any kind of new tornado warning. Let's take a closer look, Skytracker Doppler radar, and get back to tracking that for you with the new warning. Do you want to let us know about how long that lasts?
The new warning goes until 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Storms still moving east at 45, so the speed has been pretty consistent.
It has, yes.
Still moving northeast at 45. Now for this warning, we're talking about 60-mile-per-hour winds and the possibility of some smaller hail. But still, we have to watch it for circulations, just like the rest of the line.
All right, you're watching an extended version of News 4 at 6 as we track this line of storms with a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. Same potential there for high-end winds, 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds in High Ridge now. Festus in about 7 minutes. Farmington in about 13 minutes. Downtown in about 29 minutes. Granite City into Illinois in about 34 minutes. As we continue to track not only on radar, but with the BJC Skycam networks as well.
It's up. This is our view from Missouri Baptist Medical Center. We're looking off to the west. I've got another view. St. Peter's, the sky started to open up there. Could see some.
And that's Interstate 70. News 4's Kim St. Ange is one of our crews. Do you know where she's at, Joe? Good. Okay. She's coming up on Wentzville, and I just want to make sure she's out of what could be a cycling tornado. And if that rotation's really weak, but moving across 70 now. I'm going to check in on the Doppler out of the airport. Still not seeing anything real significant there as well. Yeah, so it's going to turn into more of a straight line wind threat, I think, as this thing plows into Chesterfield Valley area and up into St. Charles City. I'm going to track this section of the storm from St. Charles City, about to get hammered. Chesterfield Valley has been getting hammered. We've shown you that from News 4's Russell Kinsall. That's moving off to the northeast. It's put at about 45. So St. Charles City now 2 minutes. Kirkwood 10 minutes. I know in Kirkwood we heard one of the spots where the sirens are going off. I do not see any tornado threat for you. The sirens are outdoors for people to get indoors. Afton's another spot, 16 minutes. So those sirens were sent off an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. So hopefully folks are indoors. They had plenty of time to get safe and not be out when the threat for some damaging straight line winds hits. What are we hearing from the Weather Service? Is that Chesterfield storm flaring up a little bit?
They're watching it closely. That same area of rotation that went over Augusta that picked up debris in that area, they're watching for the potential of a spin up there as that moves into Chesterfield.
Okay.
So they're still watching that very closely. And I continue to, well, St. Peter's has now been completely covered up. We had a nice picture there of the cloud bottoms, but not anymore.
Yeah.
So
I'm not seeing any real significant rotation over Chesterfield. In fact, in Chesterfield, it really looks like you've been hit in the valley. You're done. Baldwin's getting hit now. And what I'm going to highlight is a little Boeing segment here that's going to head into Maryland Heights very shortly. Let me see. Is this going northeast or east? I think it's starting to go more east. And that's going to get into Maryland Heights in about 5 minutes. So Interstate 270, anywhere from around Olive, Page, Highway 40 and 270, next 4 to 5 minutes, going to get absolutely hammered. So that's around Maryland Heights, the Creve Coeur area, and eventually into U City. U City might be a couple minutes later, like 6 to 7 minutes. And pounded with heavy rain and a potential for some really strong winds as well. Switch over to the Doppler winds. And you're going to see a little bright red streak right there. And that's right headed towards Page and 270, the Page extension and 270. And that's just an indication on radar, some strong straight line winds. I'm not seeing real significant rotation right there, but I do think we'll continue to monitor it. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Just got a report of a funnel cloud in St. Charles. Maybe widen the view and just check some of this other. Yeah, there's a little notch there maybe, but anyway, report of a funnel cloud in St. Charles.
In St. Charles City? Or just St. Charles County? They might have spied it from the city
Matches
looking
radar,
to the west.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Just an area to watch. We'll keep watching because this line is really notchy, and anywhere we see some of those what we call notches, we could get little brief spin ups, which actually over Augusta spun up quite quickly and quite aggressively.
Yep. So what Megan's talking about is instead of a straight up and down north to south line, I'd actually prefer to see that. It would typically mean you're still going to end up with potentially damaging straight line winds. But instead of that, see how notchy and wavy it is? The reason it's wavy is because there's some circulations to it. So it's like creating eddies in the water or in the river. And so it ends up kind of meandering a little bit. And it's just a sign that this thing still has the potential to rotate. That is a really low cloud, but it's just scud right there. Is that Missouri Baptist Medical Center looking to the west?
Due west.
Yeah. So that is right here, looking due west at this. And what's happening is on the leading edge, we call those scud clouds, those dark clouds they're ragged looking, and they hang really low. They can confuse people who aren't trained to think maybe that's a funnel cloud, maybe it's even a tornado. Those are just scud clouds right there. And what's happening is the cool air that comes out of that storm is actually lifting up the moist air and creating those kind of ragged looking clouds. And they're moving right over Missouri Baptist Medical Center and the BJC Skycam right now. That said, even though that's not a tornado, this line right here still has that potential to produce 60-mile-per-hour winds and some damage. And you're seeing how dark it is. It's good news that it's dark. That's Mother Nature's sign telling you, hey, get inside, get away from windows. That's the best thing to do with the wind threat out of this, inside, away from windows. When it comes to tornadoes, a little different. Want to be in the lowest level, in the basement preferably. And we're not seeing that right now. And Meg's moving it around because we're just looking at one section of the storm. And so she wants to kind of peer up and down using the tools of the BJC Skycam network here just to see, like, hey, is there any area where we're seeing rotation? And as she does that, lower cloud there in the distance, but that's probably a rain shaft. That's what that looks like in the distance to the right. And then the other thing is it's live video, so you're watching for rotation. We're not seeing that. Okay, so again, that's from BJC Skycam, Missouri Baptist Medical Center, looking at that line. We'll watch that line for any areas to develop new rotations. I'm going to switch over to the Doppler winds and just peer. It's notchy. There's some areas where, small scale circulations, nothing real obvious like what we saw over Augusta earlier, even down towards Festus. Hey, there's a lot of areas I haven't mentioned your town, and I apologize, but that's a good thing. You're probably still getting hit by some strong storms. We have severe thunderstorm warnings up and down this line, but if I haven't paid attention to your area, it's because you haven't had that tornado that hit with a tornado debris signature around Augusta. That was our focus for so long. I still want everyone to know we're tracking that line of storms, and we'll give you a heads up on exactly where it's going to be, when it's going to be. But if you haven't heard your town in a while, it's a good thing. It's because you're not in the way of the most dangerous part of the storm. That most dangerous part of the storm has weakened. We're not seeing a real significant tornado threat. We are still seeing a potential for damaging straight line winds. So what I want to do is just get rid of these colored boxes and we'll start south, and we'll work our way north and give you an update on where the damaging wind threat is going to be. Off to the northeast, 45 to 50 miles per hour, Farmington. You're pretty much getting hit now, but I think it's going to pick up in the next 5 minutes as far as the rain goes, but some strong winds now. St. Genevieve in about 34 minutes.
I'm trying to switch to that camera, actually. It's really good if I can just get to it.
Yeah.
The Farmington camera. Parkland Health Center is good. Where are we? We are going to camera 2.
That's Christian Hospital you're seeing right now.
No, yeah, I'm trying to switch it. That because it really shows.
They're about to move in. That's
and you can
south.
see the camera shaking.
Yeah, that's the high school and the football field looking south from Parkland Health Center. And then, so coming from the west to the east is that storm in Farmington. Okay, we tracked that for you. Festus now, Kirkwood about 5 minutes, 16 minutes into Columbia, 21 minutes into downtown St. Louis. This thing has slowed. It was going about 55 miles per hour. Now it's going about 45, and it's one of the reasons why, earlier we were thinking this thing was going to be into downtown at 6:30, and it's not. Why did that happen? Because it slowed down by about 10 miles per hour or so. So now we got it about 20 minutes. It gets into downtown. That turns out to be a good thing, though, because we've got that important Blues game coming up, and we wanted people safe walking from the cars to the Enterprise Center. Of course, remember the Cardinals game is postponed. That will be a night game, 6:45 tomorrow. The area up in north of St. Charles, still not seeing a real significant rotation there. That's really good news. This is Interstate 64 out in Chesterfield, hammered with heavy rain. Worst of it is east of you. And I know you're probably, if you're in Chesterfield, you're looking at your window and you're going, really? The worst of it's over, and you've got that going on. It's heavy rain, it's lightning, but as far as damaging winds, that has actually moved east of you. And as far as any threat for rotation, that is to the east of you. It's moving into Town and Country right now. Let's make sure we keep an eye on that Missouri Baptist Medical Center.
It's up now. It's back in my weather graphic system. There it is.
And that's one of our crews, by the way, that we had out in Chesterfield. That's News 4's Russell Kinsall, and he's out in Chesterfield by the valley. And we've got crews that were up on 44, coming in on Warrenton. By the way, that crew that was on 70, if they want to come in a little closer and take 70 down towards St. Charles, they can do that right now. As long as they don't go past St. Charles City, I think that's good. Give it about, they're probably not even near there, but there is a little area of rotation I want to watch. I just spotted it. And these squall line, if you're just joining us, by the way, I've mentioned this a couple of times. We're in a situation where you get a squall line, and you get these rotations that develop, fizzle out, develop, fizzle out. It's very hard to spot, and because they're transient. They don't last very long. I'm going to switch over. That's Kim St. News 4's Kim St. Ange, and she is near Interstate 70. But this would be very near the airport, and it's just an area of interest at this point. I don't see a real strong signature, but this is right around Maryland Heights.
Yeah, near Bridgeton.
That 180, that's Rock Road, St. Charles Rock Road. This area around 270 and 70, that's an area where there's a little rotation, and we'll keep an eye on this, see if it develops a little bit more. But that green you see here, right here, if that develops in a little bit more, the red comes out, that would be a sign of strengthening rotation. But just trying to highlight within this line where we're watching for the potential of tornado pop-up. We mentioned it when it was west of Union before the tornado warning was issued, and we saw it right away when it was just south of Augusta. That one was obvious, though, and unfortunately it was obvious. I haven't heard any reports. Guys, do we have any reports of damage out around Augusta? What are we hearing from them? Do we have any St. Charles County emergency managers? We had a tornado debris signature. There's got to be at least power lines down. We got report of a storm siren down in Washington. This is near Highway 100 in the movie theater. So again, that's in Washington, Missouri. That would have been from straight line winds. Wow, look at that power pole snapped, or the V pole for the siren just snapped. So again, that's video from Washington, Missouri. We were on the air when those powerful winds hit. We saw it in the BJC Skycam network. That was pretty intense, and that was not a tornadic, but it was straight line winds, which again is another aspect of this whole storm system as this line hits. And the line is basically hitting right around 270 now. Bridgeton, Town and Country, Kirkwood, down to Crestwood. Check out the Skycam there. Where are we looking at there, Meg?
That's the one at I-55 and Butler Hill Road. So we're looking at Barnes-Jewish Siteman in South County.
Okay.
And it's a pretty gnarly-looking sky,
yeah,
for sure.
It is.
If I take a little pan here back down, you can just kind of see how dark and eerie that sky looks there, just panning around.
I'm keeping an eye, while you do that, I'm keeping an eye on that rotation that I'm just interested in near Maryland Heights and Bridgeton. And it has strengthened a little bit.
Weather Service is watching that too, just to confirm.
Did they chime in on? Great, thank you.
Yep, on the Bridgeton area.
Let me zoom out a little bit to kind of give you a little better picture here of what I'm dealing with. So we have a squall line. Anywhere along the leading edge here, we're going to deal with some really strong winds, potential for some damaging winds like that siren pole that we just saw snapped in Washington, Missouri. If you're in Washington, by the way, you're in the clear. This thing's done for you. You have rain, you have lightning, but the threat for severe weather from Festus to Arnold to Kirkwood to St. Charles. And the reason I'm zoomed in a little tight, I don't mean to ignore anyone farther south or farther north, but I'm noticing rotation right around here. And I wanted to give folks in the metro the bigger picture of exactly where that is. This is out near the airport, up around Bridgeton, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer and continue to take a look at the Doppler winds, which helps give us a little heads up on when something may develop. And it would be east of St. Charles City and coming right around sort of near the Mills Mall, 370 and 270. This is north of Maryland Heights now. And at the very least, I think we've got some really strong winds right in here. So at the very least, there's the potential for some damaging winds.
Look, I'm trying to see the radar because we've got a new message here that they're watching a surge, essentially one of those Nachi areas surging into St. Louis City. So go down south a little bit. They're seeing a circulation beginning to develop, and they are likely going to issue a tornado warning. That would be for St. Louis City.
They mentioned the city and not the county?
St. Louis City.
I would think it'd be what we're seeing up there up north.
That's an area of concern that they're watching. There
is the Enterprise Center. Big game coming up, and let's see, at about 45 miles per hour, we're going to get this in about 14 minutes into Enterprise Center.
There's the new tornado warning.
Yep. All right, let's zoom in on that.
Stick with the speed close to around 50 miles per hour.
Okay, that surge must be in South County coming in towards the city. That is that's our airport cam right there. You're seeing out at Lambert, up and down the central part of west to central part of St. Louis County, just getting absolutely hammered right now. And we have a new tornado warning that has just come in. So now you have 2 red boxes. You'll see multiple areas capable of producing tornadoes along this line. This is kind of what we've been saying. There's not like one specific area right now. But this is basically a line from Sappington to near Crystal City, and it is moving towards downtown, which is the view you're seeing right there from downtown looking to the south over Busch Stadium, which at 6:49 p.m. right now should have been having a game shortly, and thankfully they are not, as we now have a tornado warning, including St. Louis City, as this line capable of producing tornadoes moves in. It's radar indicated, but it's also partly the situation we're in. I'm going to get rid of the red box that kind of represents the tornado warning. It drops all the way from around Kirkwood to Festus and Crystal City. And I'll put a track on that whole line for you. And you said 45 miles per hour, right?
Let's go up a little bit. Let's go around 50 to 55 miles per hour, so 52.
Yeah. So what's happening here is as the storm surges and gets those surges, then it speeds up. It gets back up to the 50 to 55. So it's into Afton now. U City, that would be in about 6 minutes. St. Louis City in about 12 minutes. Check in on that Enterprise Center camera again, guys, when you get a chance. It looked busy. Now, that's the flags. Look, if there's anyone, it's close enough to game time, they're zooming out. Close enough to game time that most of those people should be parked and into the Enterprise Center. But, look, if you know anyone in some of these areas that's outdoors, whether it be for the Blues game and they're working outdoors, maybe for the Little League games, whatever it may be this evening, make sure you give them a call, a heads up, and a text. This is a tornado warning, pretty much capable anywhere along this line right now. Granite City in about 17 minutes, Belleville in about 26 minutes, but again, St. Louis City in about 12 minutes. Let's take a closer look at that. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen, you're noticing from Barnes Jewish Hospital and the BJC Skycam network as those really dark clouds move in. And we'll continue to watch for any kind of rotation there.
Let's take a little spin.
Any heads up on what they're seeing as far as any one particular surge over another?
Siren sounding. Oh, those are more sirens. Funnel cloud reported to the north of 70 and 270 north of Bridgeton.
Okay, that's that other surge I was talking about.
Not on this cell, but they are sounding the sirens in Dupo and Columbia, Illinois, on the other side of the river.
Well, they've got a tornado warning. That's fine. And so what I'm seeing here is I'm not seeing, even though we've got a tornado warning, I'm not seeing one specific area over another. Perhaps, maybe it's getting a little messy here. You're starting to see the radar data degrade there, but maybe near or just east of the JB Bridge. And that other area was tracking up to the north, around 270 and 70. I mentioned near the mills. There's a little circulation right there, just north of 370. And did you say there was a funnel cloud out there?
Yes, to the north of 70 and 270, right north of Bridgeton.
Yeah.
Funnel cloud reported.
Yeah. There is a circulation up there, and it is north of 370. News 4's Kim St. Ange is in St. Peter's now, so she's worked her way from Warrenton down 70 to St. Peter's. That's what you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen. And she's in a safe spot right now. As far as the rotation goes up to the north-northwest, That is, if you're anywhere near 370, the Mills, it's really just north of you and moving up to the northern part of St. Charles County. So let me get back to the velocity data. I'm going to track that off to the northeast. I'm actually seeing two areas of rotation. One is right in here. One is right in here. Let me get rid of that. And I'll track that whole section where we could have these small-scale circulations that can develop into, I got to back up and get a better speed, that can develop into a tornado. We saw that happen pretty quickly as a storm produced a small-scale circulation near Union and then turned into a tornado near Augusta. Black Walnut in a couple minutes, Godfrey in about 18 minutes. What I'm tracking for you, there's a couple areas right here, a little notchy, that we want to watch. Notchy just means there's some areas where there's probably a little bit of circulation. Let's track that up into Godfrey in about 18 minutes, Shipman in about 34 minutes. We will continue to watch that for you. If it strengthens, we'll let you know. In the meantime, I'm going to work my way down that line and see if there's any one spot over another.
Weather Service is watching that one you just tracked. They just mentioned it. And then the Sirens are going off in Arnold as well as St. Louis City again.
Yep, okay.
Which, again, they should be with the tornado warning, but if you're hearing those, they're going off in the city of St. Louis and Arnold, and probably more places.
So working my way down that line, maybe just to the southwest of Columbia. Let me switch over to the radar. There might be a little surge down there. Over Valmeyer, I see a little surge. I'm hunting. I'm investigating at this point. If you're wondering what's going on, why doesn't he tell me exactly where the tornado is? It's because I can't. We're not in a situation like that. We are in a situation where a squall line right here has a potential to produce 60, 70 mile an hour winds and then develop these tornadoes. They're what we call transient. They typically don't last very long. Oftentimes, they're brief and weak. I got to say, though, we've had experiences where they can be strong. And I got to say, earlier tonight, we had a signature on radar that looked really strong. It was a tornado debris signature over Augusta. So I'm not seeing one spot over another, but that is a tornado warning. So what do you do with that information? If I can't tell you exactly where it is, you play it safe rather than sorry. It's just like buckling up in the car. You get in, you buckle up before you get into an accident. Not because you think you're getting in an accident, you're just playing it safe, right? So if there's a spot here that you're in, we're going to mention some of the cities in a second, we track it. Get into your safe shelter, be in the basement, hope that it just comes over you with strong winds and you're perfectly safe. And then that way, if something does develop quickly, like what happened earlier out over Franklin County moving into St. Charles County, you're going to be in a safe spot. And Meg said, let's pump up the speed a little bit. You know what? I'm going to pump up the speed and follow some of the surges on this line. Okay, so I mentioned some of the cities that we would track this into. We've got you into Waterloo in about 4 minutes. We're now into downtown in about 5 minutes. You're looking at the BJC Skycam network on the right-hand side of your screen from Barnes Jewish Hospital in the Central West End. So you can see those dark clouds moving in. We don't see any rotation. That is a shelf cloud, though. So that shelf cloud is indicative of really strong winds, heavy rain behind it. Just because you have a shelf cloud doesn't mean you're going to get damaged, but we are in a situation where these could be some pretty high-end winds. Meg, can you handle this?
Yeah, there's a new, I'm just scanning the skies on that shot. We're back over to the Science Center now, kind of following that shelf cloud that you were talking about. Yep. It's really quite an eerie-looking sky there. You've got the new tornado warning that just came in.
Meg's working those cameras. You're doing a great job. Thank you for that. Keep scanning. Really appreciate it. And what's new?
This new tornado warning, you tracked this already. This is the storm, but now we've got Alton and a tornado warning. Basically, it goes until 7:45. It's that circulation that you tracked over Florissant.
Where we mentioned Godfrey in about 18 minutes, but that was a few minutes ago.
Correct. Yep. So that's just a new tornado warning that's come in, and it goes until 7:45.
Okay. I've noticed a couple surges on this line. I'm going to point out a couple spots. This is tricky, folks, analyzing the radar on the fly, but when something obvious jumps out at us, we'll tell you about it, sometimes even before warning comes out. That's one of the reasons we're staying on the air, because this is a real threatening line for not only straight line damaging winds, but can produce a tornado at any moment. And you're seeing the airport on the right-hand side of your screen. Can't really tell it's the airport because there's so much heavy rain coming down. It's now north of the airport where that threat for rotation and a tornado is. And I'm going to pinpoint it north of Florissant. It is north of 67 as well. So north side of Florissant, not just north of Florissant, but north side of Florissant, right there. That is a circulation that could produce a tornado. It's not a real strong signature, but it's headed towards Alton. And speed's 45, or is that northern flank one more 55?
It's actually gone a little slower. Go back down to 45.
You got it.
Miles per hour.
Meg, thank you for your help. You can't do this alone. There's a lot going on. Really appreciate it. We're talking to Alton in about 10 minutes. So what I'm tracking in Alton in 10 minutes is, quite frankly, a weak circulation that can strengthen. What do you do with that? You're a family in Alton? I'd play it safe, or at least in the next 5-10 minutes, let's be staying tuned to Channel 4 here and be watching. No, you should already have a way to get the warning. You should already know your plan, and then enact your plan as that gets a little closer. Play it safe rather than sorry. Again, frankly, not a real strong signature, but something to keep an eye on. If you're in Florissant, you're getting hammered by the strong winds, the heavy rain. I'm going to switch over to the radar, and you'll see that, but I'm not seeing the rotation in that spot. Actually, the rain's probably just picking up in intensity. Meg, you seeing something on those cams?
Oh, no, I was just trying to get to an Alton camera just so I could take a look at what's going on. I've been kind of scanning the skies there and don't really see anything at the moment, so I'll switch over.
I'd say our Barnes Jewish, St. Louis Children's cams are going to be good, and then South County.
Starting to get pretty, it's all rain. That's all rain.
Okay.
Those are. So
they're just covered in rain.
Covered in rain. So I'm trying to go to our eastern cameras now, Shiloh, as well as the wind's picking up in Alton, that's for sure.
Downtown in 4 minutes. Okay. You've been watching live storm mode coverage. We'll continue to track these storms. Let's get some new information from Steve and Courtney at the Anchor Desk.
Yeah, Steve, just a programming update, especially right now for those of you who are looking for the NCIS finale. We know that's important to you. We do want to bring it to you. But right now we are in storm mode coverage because there are several tornado warnings in the metro area. The show will be available online tomorrow at CBS.com, and we hope to air it on air at a later date. We will update you when we get that, but right now we want to go back to our weather team. We also have crews spread out across the area covering and monitoring all the latest on this weather situation as we have potential tornado watches and warnings in the area. I want to go back now to Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Well, we mentioned checking out the Barnes Jewish St. Louis Children's cameras. That's actually an area where we're seeing a couple circulations coming into South County, South City, I should say, and into downtown. So let me get back to our storm track here, and I'm going to switch over to the Doppler winds. Right around the central west end, there's going to be one right here. That's really the one to watch. And then switch over back to the radar. It's going to be right on that surge.
We don't.
Check out downtown at the Enterprise Center. So what you're looking at is this storm on radar that you see coming into downtown. And again, see that little surge, a little bow? It's going to have some strong winds with it. But what we're looking for is any kind of circulation to tighten up. It hasn't yet. I know we've got sirens going off in a lot of spots. You come inside and you expect to know exactly where the tornado is. That's what we love to do, be real specific, let you know when you're in the clear and who's under the threat. Right now, there's no one spot that I can point to and say, this is where the tornado is right now. We're in a situation where a squall line is coming into downtown St. Louis, South City, Dutchtown, and could produce a tornado very quickly. You need to be inside, you need to be away from windows, you need to be down in the basement. If you don't have a basement, you want to be low and in. You want to be in the lowest level, and you want to be in an interior room. That way you put as many walls between you and the outside. Well, I don't have an immediate threat where I can point to and say, hey, this is a tornado coming your way. Just play it safe rather than sorry. Take 20 minutes out of your life to put yourself in a real good spot, or you and your family. Let this thing pass. It's not going to last long. This is going to produce heavy rain, frequent lightning, and some heavy winds. Let's hope it doesn't produce a tornado. But as it passes over you, about 20, 30 minutes later, you're in the clear as far as any kind of damage, and you're all good to go. I want you in that safe spot when it happens, though. That is a Highway 94. It's a tree over 94. My guess is that's very close to Augusta. because that's where we had that tornado, right on 94. And is that our crew live out there, guys, or is that some video we're just getting in? So that is live, and that looked like whatever. If we get a chance to talk to them, I'd love to know what they're seeing, because that was where we had a really strong signature. Wow, look at downtown, look into the west. That's Market Street. We had a real strong signature for a tornado. There likely was right in that area, and I'd like to know what they're seeing, what they're saying out there. Hopefully no injuries. Okay, we've got tornado warnings still out. In fact, several of them, pretty much along the heart of the St. Louis metro. Look, if I've been ignoring your town, I apologize. You have the potential for damaging winds, yes. My focus is on where we can end up with a tornado spinning up, and this can happen very quickly. It did earlier today, and I want to focus on that right now. But up and down this line, from south to north, there's a potential for damaging winds. Where you see the red boxes, that's where we're going to have that threat for some spin-ups or tornadoes. I know it's real messy, so let me get rid of the boxes, and then I'll just kind of highlight this for you. Big picture, and we'll zoom in and see what's going on. This line is the threat for severe weather. Once it hits, you may get more rain and lightning, but that's it. That is the threat for severe weather. It does stretch down. I don't mean to ignore you down in Farmington. You're really in the thick of it now, and it's going to ease up pretty quickly. Don't mean to ignore you farther to the north, to Whitehall and Carrollton. You're about to get hit with some of those strong winds. But in the core of the metro right now, we do have tornado warnings, in fact, a couple of them. And one of the reasons why my focus is here, the one to the north, that's a rotation I saw coming into Alton. It's not there yet. I'll time it for you, but that has 364,000 people in the tornado warning. And then we have in that southern one that comes through St. Louis down through Waterloo, 635,000. So we have about 1 million people that are in a tornado warning, that might be hearing sirens, that might be getting alerts on their smartphone wisely and wondering what's going on. That's why we're here, and that's why we'll continue to track this. So I'm going to zoom in on that northern flank. I mentioned Alton, and see if I can spot and pinpoint any specific rotation. Here's good news. I don't see any real obvious signs of rotation. The bad news is I do think you're going to get hit and buffered by some really strong straight line winds here, coming out of Florissant, riding through the Clark Bridge and into Alton. Timing-wise on that, we're talking about 7 minutes. And Meg, we can keep an eye on Alton Memorial Hospital. Area of rotation to keep an eye on to the north, it's southeast of Grafton, so Grafton would not be affected by this. Just an area where I see a little circulation potential right there. Okay, let's go down the line. We're getting hammered in downtown. Guys, get me some downtown cameras.
I've already got them. We've been showing them, and they're completely washed out. Well, mine are the ones at Barnes Jewish. Looking east, I'm looking east toward downtown from Central West End. You can see just a few buildings in the foreground, and then that's it. You can't see the skyline. You can't see the highway, and that's the same looking back to the west over Forest Park with our St. Louis Children's Hospital. And I am looking at Alton. There's Alton Memorial Hospital. So far, not seeing anything too suspect there, but we're scanning the skies there as well.
Guys, if you can get our east cam and point it to the northeast. East cam to the northeast, and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. It's subtle. These things are difficult to pinpoint, but so we have a camera here, and we want to look at this notch. So we're looking to the south now, and then they're going to pan around. You're going to see the river, and we're going to basically take it and pan around and try to see this. I know you're looking at that going, there's probably nothing. That's how it starts, though, because what's happening here is the wind's coming out ahead of the main line of storms, and it could be curling in a little bit right in that spot. And these curls, these little rotations, they develop and they go away. Wow, look how dark that is off to the east. So that dark cloud, that shelf cloud, represents this, which is moving into the metro east. And I know it's dark, it's ominous, it's nasty, but that cloud itself doesn't mean you're going to get hit with severe weather. But noticing this radar right here, where we ramp up from the green into the reds really quickly, that's a good signature for some real strong winds. So we're going to get hit here right on the riverfront and right downtown. That's the northern leg of the arch you see. And there is the Enterprise Center, too, getting hit with all that rain. Again, when you get hit, it can pack a punch, and it moves on. We've been on for a while, and there's some good news. We had a real significant radar signature, a tornado debris signature, and we haven't had that repeated. It didn't cycle. The bad news is we had it. We're going to have crews checking in with southern St. Charles County around Augusta. But the good news is I'm not seeing anything like that where we have a real intense signature where, quite frankly, people's lives are in jeopardy at that particular moment. It's not to say that these storms, as they move in, can't do damage and can't hurt people. They absolutely can. And they can develop into that type of tornado so quickly. That's the situation we're in, where this squall line coming into downtown, you see there another view from downtown. That squall line can develop these rotations so quickly, just like it did earlier today out near Augusta, just as it passed through and north of Union. Speaking of which, if there's anyone in St. Charles County, Kirkwood, you're in the clear. Afton, you're in the clear as well. I know there's some places where the sirens are going off. The sirens may still be going off in downtown. That's Market Street looking to the west. And for good reason, because St. Louis is getting hit with it right now. Switch over to the Doppler winds. Right now, this looks like a strong straight line wind threat to me right in downtown St. Louis. A lot of that bright red represents raindrops that are flying very fast away from the radar. And what we'll look for is along that line, any kind of these notches where we get the reds and the greens next to each other, and that would represent that circulation developing. You're seeing it happening on Market Street Cam right there where the heavy rain's moving into downtown, but there's potential for some 60+ mile-per-hour winds that can do some damage. That would get into Granite City eventually, and eventually into Belleville. I've focused a lot on trying to find those circulations. Let me step back and take some time to track this for you as well. So I'm going to get back to what you kind of consider the normal radar, and the leading edge of that line that has prompted tornado warnings, although there's no one spot that I can particularly find, is moving off to the east-northeast and gets into Granite City in just a minute. You notice the airport, the rain has let up. That's a good sign. If you've been following our coverage, it was pouring. You couldn't even tell it was an airport, and now you can kind of see things. It's a good sign of how this system's going to go. You're going to get hit. It's going to pack a punch. It's going to last maybe 20 minutes. It's going to move on. But when it packs a punch, it can pack those strong damaging winds. And, of course, we'll watch for any tornadoes to develop. I haven't heard of any hail. Have you heard of any hail reports?
Most of it has been an inch or lower.
Okay, quarter size or lower. That can still do some damage, but we haven't heard of any huge hail.
No.
That's a view from downtown, looking out at the Enterprise Center and 14th. Granite City right there in about a minute, Belleville in about 10 minutes, Edwardsville in about 15 minutes. Tracking that huge line for you and letting folks in the Illinois side know what's headed your way, Highland, in about 34 minutes. By the way, I've been holding this a while. If you're wondering what this is, I'm looking at radar that has those Doppler winds so that I can constantly look for those small-scale circulations because they happen so rapidly. I want to draw your attention to them when they do develop. Just like earlier today, when it did happen near Augusta, I just instantly said, stop. We got to, and that's what this thing is. It helps me pinpoint that. Meg, you got some new information?
I was just going to turn warnings back on so we could just kind of recap where we were. We do have a new tornado warning. You can see all those red boxes and the yellow boxes. That is, of course, why we are on the air. A whole lot of people impacted by these storms moving across the metro right now. Of course, the Blues game started at 7 o'clock, so most of those folks indoors now, we hope. But that new tornado warning was for the storm you were tracking out of, near Granite City.
Near Granite City, right?
Toward Alton. Yeah.
There's a little surge over there, too. Madison, Illinois, Granite City, Illinois.
And I'm scanning the skies with Alton Memorial Hospital as well at RBJC Skytracker Network. And keeping a close eye on some, scary-looking clouds, we call them sometimes.
Yeah, but we know we're in a situation where those clouds behind them can come with the gusts of wind that can do some damage. But the reason why you see all these red boxes and the reason why we're staying on the air right now, it's about 7:12, is because we have multiple tornado warnings. That's what those red boxes are, including over St. Louis, downtown, and the newest one for a section of the storm that's coming into Granite City that I don't see a real strong rotation signature. I really don't, but I think we're in an environment where we know these can happen so quickly. You're also looking downtown. Let's take that view full, guys, if you can. That is, it looks like the rain was going sideways. And News 4's Emily Pritchard is hopefully, are you inside, Emily? So you're not in the elements out there. What are you seeing? Oh yeah, she's outside. I can hear it now.
Yeah, Steve, we're actually in a parking garage
We're in a parking garage, obviously, where we have a view to the outside, but safely covered at the moment. And man, the rain and wind is really happening at the moment. It's been interesting watching people go into the Enterprise Center. Hopefully everyone's inside safely right now, but as you can see with what we're looking at, the rain's almost made it look gray outside at the moment, and we can just make out a few headlights and cars coming down the streets, but the rain is heavy, and coming down pretty thick at the moment.
Yeah, it looks intense. And of course, the reason why the rain goes sideways at times is because it comes with those 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. I'm glad you're in somewhere safe, by the way. I was a little worried about you being outside, so thank you for being in a good position, a safe position, but still bringing us that view. That's News 4's Emily Pritchard. So what I'm going to do is zoom back in on this line of storms and show you a couple spots I've been kind of analyzing for some kind of interest as far as rotation goes. I still do not see one particular location that looks more significant than another as far as a threat for a tornado. Around, let's see, Millstadt to Smithton, not so much. Let me double check in the radar. No, I think we're good there. Let me zoom up the line. I mean, this is all notchy where you get these little spots like right here, just south of Washington Park, where you get a little wind going this way, a little wind going this way. It's an indication that along this line of storms, yeah, there's some circulation. It's just radar's not showing it tight enough, strong enough to pinpoint where we have a likely tornado. It's just not that case. Now, of course, this is a tornado warning, and these can intensify. I mean, in just one scan, in a 2-minute radar scan, all of a sudden that can start producing a really strong signature. It did earlier today.
Well, it did. So, it lofted debris well into the atmosphere.
You said 10,000 feet even, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Weather Service was telling us, that the debris on earlier tornado debris signature out near Augusta was up 10,000 feet in the air.
That's the camera I was waiting for, Alton Memorial. While you analyze the winds there, I'm just going to scan Alton.
Yeah.
As the storm's moving in there, it's definitely an intense-looking sky.
Broad, weak rotation coming right into Alton. See that green right there? That's going to the radar. See that red? It's going away. So it wouldn't be surprised if you look up and you see kind of a swirl. And what we're looking for is not just a swirl, but rapid rotation and a lowering. We certainly have some lowering, but a lot of that is scud clouds. But definitely a broad rotation up there. I realize there's a lot of folks that are coming in. You've got the sirens going off, and you expect to know exactly where the tornado is. We're just not in a situation like that. Instead, what we're in is a situation with, as I back out and show you the radar, this squall line that instead of being just a straight squall line is what we call notchy. So it kind of meanders a little bit, and anywhere along that line, you end up with these little areas that can create circulation and could end up developing into a tornado. We do have tornado warnings, including in St. Louis, where you see some from Market Street right there, the heavy rain hitting. That is downtown on Market Street. And St. Louis City, as far as rotation goes, let me make sure, because I want to go up to North City before I make this call and go down to South City. St. Louis City's in the clear as far as rotation goes. You've got heavy rain, you've got heavy winds. Give it a little bit of time. You're going to know. You'll look out the window and you'll see this, okay? You'll see that. And you'll say, okay, it's still heavy. Let's give it some time. And then all of a sudden, it's going to ease up. You'll still have some rain, you'll still have some thunder, but I'm telling you, as far as circulation goes and the worst of the winds, it is now east of downtown, east of St. Louis City.
And the tornado warning for St. Louis City is canceled.
Okay, perfect timing. Okay, so it does extend into the Metro East, though, right? They're going to continue that? I would imagine.
They are continuing.
Hold on to that.
They're continuing Jersey, Macoupin, and Madison, yes.
Okay.
Funnel cloud reported in Alton. Let me get that camera back up. Funnel cloud reported in Alton.
And wouldn't be surprised if that's right on that area of broad rotation we were talking about.
Go back to my Alton camera. Ugh, it's getting kind of murky.
Yeah, it's not a real strong signature. And if anything, if you're in Alton, you're going to get hit by a strong straight line wind. So you need to be inside and away from windows at the very least. You're getting hit. I shouldn't say going to be. You're getting hit right now. So I've been focusing on looking at circulations here. Let me kind of zoom out and give you the big picture. We continue to track storms and stay on because we still have tornado warnings. The reason why, the leading edge of this line, which is hitting now moving into the Metro East and East St. Louis, can still produce these circulations that develop a tornado. There's no one spot over another that I think there is a tornado on the ground right now. That is really good news. Some folks in the path of the storm, though, are going to have to take shelter and just play it safe rather than sorry. That is an Alt Memorial camera on the right-hand side of your screen there, and that's our BJC Skycam network we've been spying the skies with. Heavy rain moving in dark clouds. There was a report of a funnel cloud. It looked like there was some broad rotation, but in that Alton area, I'm not seeing anything real significant as far as rotation.
Yeah, it was a train spotter reported a low-hanging funnel cloud with some rotation, not rapid rotation.
Okay.
But that's where that report
That
came
speaks to that broad rotation
Correct.
we were talking about, and those are the areas that we're trying to pinpoint so that if it does intensify, we're trying to keep you ahead of the storm, and that is going to be along this line here. If you're in Festus, Kirkwood, Fenton, Eureka, Troy, you're in the clear. Bowling Green, you're in the clear. I know you still have more rain to go, but as far as severe weather threat goes, it's marching into the Metro East, and it is along this line, that leading edge, where the threat for damaging winds and potentially a tornado moves into the Metro East. So let's give some folks a heads up, because if you're in Belleville, it's coming your way. Edwardsville, Collinsville. So Edwardsville, I'm not going to time rain. I'm actually going to time heavy rain and potential strong winds, because you're going to get rain before this, about 10 minutes. Collinsville, there's a little surge here, so you could get some real strong winds sort of out of nowhere in about 5 minutes. That's Collinsville, Maryville area. Maybe make that 4 minutes, Collinsville. The radar just updated. If you're in O'Fallon, you might want to check out Shiloh, Memorial Hospital East, and looking west, because that camera in Shiloh is very near this spot, and that would be in O'Fallon in about 4 minutes. You're looking at Edwardsville on the BJC Skycam network. That's a shelf cloud in the distance. You even see some low-hanging clouds, a little scud, but not seeing any funnel clouds or tornadoes or anything like that on it. The shelf cloud is a really dark cloud out ahead of the rain. So you'll see the shelf cloud, then all of a sudden you'll see this band of rain behind it where you can't really see much, and that rain, when it hits the ground and splats on the ground, creates the gust of wind. And that's where you get in the threat for some damaging winds. Belleville, it's pretty much now. And
I've got Memorial Hospital East up now in
there you
Shiloh.
go. Yeah. And so that's headed right towards Shiloh, O'Fallon. And I'm switching over to the Doppler winds.
Lightning in there.
We're still getting these sections of the storm where there's rotation. I mean, the Weather Service is doing a good job, because you can't let go on a tornado warning when you're seeing things like this. That doesn't mean there is a tornado here, but we're definitely getting winds coming in towards the radar there, away from the radar here, and especially that red shows a little burst or surge. There could be a circulation. Well, there is a circulation right around here. It's just very weak. And that could strengthen, intensify, and produce a tornado. And so that's why the tornado warnings continue off to the east of St. Louis. Yeah. So that is exactly why we're still on the air. In fact, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings. And I realize we're covering up some prime time, but just a heads up here to give you an idea, just one of the tornado warnings has 220,000 people in it. There's another with 130,000 and another with 75,000. So, we're talking about 500,000 people that have sirens going off right now that are maybe freaking out a little bit. And hopefully you can turn on Channel 4 and get the information you need so that instead of freaking out, you have the information you need, you know where the threat is, you know what you need to do. It's one of the reasons why I'll mention areas that are in the clear. And one of the things that's tough and maybe frustrating about these particular tornado warnings is they're not like in Oklahoma, where there's one storm cell and it's one cell and we could track it for hours or track it for 10, 20 minutes and we know exactly where the tornado is. It's not that situation. It's squall line tornadoes, a line of storms that anywhere along this line can produce brief, typically, and often weak tornadoes. I caution that, though, because sometimes they can be strong, and we've had a history of that. Meg, what's new?
Steve, let's check in on the Fairview Heights circulation. National Weather Service is making some comments about that. You can see in the smaller window there, I have our BJC sky camera up, the one from Shiloh. Another reason you might be freaking out, if you look out your window and see that sky, that's a little frightening. But they're watching the circulation just northwest of Fairview Heights, thinking it just crossed I-64 there, or is crossing 64.
Yeah, it's north.
Yeah, right there. So that's their big focus right now, is that circulation right there. And that's why we're on the air.
Can you pan a little bit to the north? That's St. Clair Church right there, actually to the right a little bit. So we're looking at that shelf and the rotation. Whoa, nice little lightning strike.
Yeah.
If we see, let's keep a very close eye on that one. If we're going to see anything, it's going to come out of that section of the storm. We're kind of looking off to the north towards that storm, highlighted with this circle right here. So the camera is right about here. That's in Shiloh, but it's Memorial Hospital East, and we're spying this section of the storm. And so this is exactly what I was saying, that, you know, good for the Weather Service, because you can't give up on a tornado warning, even though there's no guarantee that this is happening, that a tornado is happening. But you do have circulation here where you have winds coming towards the radar, away from the radar right here, and that's a sign of circulation up and down 159. This is north of Belleville. If you're in Belleville, you're in the clear from that rotation. When I say you're in clear from the rotation, that doesn't mean you're in the clear from storms. These storms can still produce some damaging winds. In Washington, Missouri, earlier, we had some video of that. You guys can show some of the damage, and let's get back to our folks. And we've got a lot of crews out there in St. Charles County. Let's check in with them. But in Washington, there was a siren that was actually snapped. And then, of course, that was just straight line winds. That wasn't the tornado. So if I'm mentioning that you're safe from the circulation, doesn't mean you're safe from the storm itself. Those straight line winds can certainly be damaging. But the reason why we're still on the air right now is because things like this can develop into a tornado so quickly. And as I mentioned, got 500,000 people that have sirens going off and they're wondering what's going on. So we want to be here for them and continue to track it. That's moving off to the probably east, a little bit northeast at about 45 miles per hour. And let me know if that, you know, the speeds have changed on us a little bit today, Meg. Before I track that, I just want to mention this because I'm seeing a little surge in between Edwardsville and Collinsville. Switch over to the radar right there. That's a little surge that probably is some real strong straight line winds. So that's another aspect to continue to track. Okay, as far as that threat for rotation, it's just northwest of O'Fallon. It's north of Fairview Heights. It is north of Interstate 64 right now. And we're going to put that off to, you know what, before I do that, to the northeast, let's see how this has progressed and make sure it's not going just east. Pardon me, but you're actually watching me analyze this in real time. Nope, it is northeast, okay. And I want to make sure I get this right for you. That's one of the things we try to do, is be real specific, okay? So let's go 45 miles per hour. We've got it into St. Jacob in 17 minutes, Marine in about 21 minutes, Highland in about 24 minutes. If you're in Lebanon, it's going to be north of you, so that would be like Route 4 north of Lebanon in about 10 minutes, as it would. And this is not a real strong signature, but it's the signature of interest where we could see something flare up, become a tornado that would cross Illinois Route 4 north of Lebanon, north of McKendree College in about 10 minutes, and perhaps out of St. Clair County and into Madison County, depending on exact trajectory there.
Oh, I want to switch back over to...
Do you have, and that's downtown you're looking at right there, which I mentioned is in the clear. It's not only in the clear from rotation, downtown's in the clear from any kind of severe threat now.
Yeah, this is quick hitting. Once the leading edge is through, then we are kind of winding down in those locations that are behind the leading edge. You're done with the severe threat. It is strictly on the leading edge of these storms, this line, and that is where we find the strongest weather, the gusty winds. We had a report of torrential rain and 50-mile-per-hour winds around Millstadt. The tornado warning. It has changed speeds a little bit, Steve. It's actually slowed down a little bit now at closer to 40 miles per hour, but still tracking off to the northeast.
So the big threat right now is going to be a squall line that can produce damaging winds and potentially flare up a quick tornado in the Metro East. We do have crews, including News 4's Kim St. Ange, who's on 270, headed over across the Chain of Rocks Bridge and into Illinois. She's tracking that storm, and I'm okay with her location right now. She's behind what is a surge of really strong winds that's about to move into Glen Carbon and Edwardsville. Too far to get hit by that, but we'll continue to track and see if there's any kind of damage. It's why we have our crews out there. We want to keep them in a safe spot, but we also want to make sure that we can get to any kind of damage and report it to you quickly. The reason we're on the air right now is because of these red boxes. We have 3 tornado warnings going. There's no one spot where specifically there's a tornado on the ground, but radar is certainly showing signatures of rotation, and the one that is of interest is just to the west of O'Fallon, Illinois right now.
And we are seeing power flashes. There have been power flashes reported in O'Fallon. Just came across the chat room.
And is that power flash over near Fairview Heights, O'Fallon?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a closer look at radar and show you what's going on. Those red boxes I mentioned, we got about 500,000 people with sirens going off. And the power flashes that Meg is talking about means there's flashes because transformers are being twisted and exploding sometimes. Sometimes that can happen from straight line winds. But what I'm going to do is zoom in here. I'm going to get rid of the boxes, and I'll show you the area of interest for a potential tornado. And let me check the winds within the radar, and it's right around O'Fallon. It's actually, it looks like it's weakened a little bit. It was a little stronger right there, and it would be just north of O'Fallon. And if I switch over...
Again, it's rain wrapped, so they're having a hard time seeing anything. There's been so much wind-driven rain around these circulations that they're hard to find with the naked eye for sure.
Yeah.
And even harder still to find on radar.
No doubt. But this was the one of interest. And if you take a look at the radar kind of loop here, I'm going back a little bit. So this is from maybe 5-10 minutes ago. See that little notch? I know it's subtle, but that caught my eye because that was the winds kind of rotating out like that. And then as it moved to the east, it surged, likely with some strong straight line winds. And here it is right now. And if there's a tornado, it would probably be just to the north of O'Fallon right there. Okay, you're watching storm mode coverage as we continue to track multiple tornado warnings across the area, that line of storms impacting the Metro East. We've got our crews out in the field. The BJC Skycams are working. And, of course, here in the newsroom gathering new information is Steve and Courtney.
All right, Steve and Megan, thank you. For those of you viewers tuning in tonight to watch the NCIS finale, we know you want to watch that. We are still in storm mode coverage because obviously we have tornado warnings in the metro and possibly a tornado touching down just after 6 o'clock tonight south of Augusta. You heard Steve and Megan talk about a tornado ball that was indicated by radar, perhaps sending debris, a debris ball, I should say. Debris ball, sending debris up in the air as high as 10,000 feet. The NCIS finale will be online tomorrow at CBS.com, and we hope to air it at a later date. We'll update you on that.
And what you're looking at right now is video of crews removing a tree that had fallen across Highway 94 in the Augusta area. Right now they're chopping it into pieces and removing it from that area. We want to go now to our Kim St. Ange, who is near the area of 270. Kim, what are you seeing in that area?
Yeah, so we actually just crossed over into Illinois, crossing over the Mississippi, and it's definitely a heavy rain right now. I wouldn't call it quite a downpour, but, you know, coming from St. Charles over to Illinois now, we've had different spouts of it, you know, torrential downpour where it's hard to see in front of you, and we've actually seen cars pull over under the underpass with their hazard lights on because the visibility was so bad at some point. So it's actually improved now. It's not too terribly dark, especially for being 7:30 right now. It seems like some cars have been going pretty fast, and you know, we've seen a lot of that ponding, that water just sitting on the road, and of course when you're going that fast, it's splashing everywhere. And we've also noticed that water, or the ponding on the sides of the road too. And keep in mind, you know, we've had this flooding here in the St. Louis area and Illinois for the last couple of weeks, so you have that, and then you're adding on top of it to what we're getting today, and this water is really accumulating very quickly. So again, here 270 east, just into the Illinois state line. Definitely rain, as you can see. Our windshield wipers are working pretty hard right now. No lightning that we've seen, no hail. That's the good news. But you're just going to want to take it slow because the ponding is an issue, and of course that can lead to hydroplaning, which we all know you do not want to do.
All right, Kim St. Ange, part of our contingent, out and about, making sure that the roads are safe to travel, giving you the updates. Emily Pritchard has been monitoring the situation downtown. She's now live outside the Enterprise Center, and Emily, looks a lot better than it did just 15 or 20, 25 minutes ago.
You said it so right, Steve. Things have really started to clear up. We're kind of starting to see that bright sky again out here. Again, I'm inside a parking garage underneath protection here. We wanted to make sure and get out of the storm's way, but you are looking down Clark Street right now. We are at the corner of Clark and Tucker, and we watched that storm roll in here, and now you can see things are kind of brightening up a little bit. At some moments during this storm, rain was really coming down. We could see it in the street lights out here, but now things have gotten so bright again that those automatic street lights have now gone back off as we enter the evening here. Again, Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals is happening inside Enterprise Center, so people wanted to make sure that fans got inside safely. The Enterprise Center and the Blues told us tonight that they have a severe weather plan, and we're keeping a close eye on the forecast and what was happening. They said if a big storm happened, they would make fans stay inside their seats inside the arena. That way they'd be safe and protected from any glass or things like that. They also said if any big storms move through towards the end of the game, they would make sure and allow fans to stay there and be protected. But again, things are really starting to look better downtown, and I'm hopeful fans will be happy when they leave the Enterprise Center tonight. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Emily Pritchard reporting from downtown St. Louis. And Steve Templeton, as you mentioned, you were tracking this just as much as 2 hours ago. These are quick hitting. This is a quick hitting line. It's terrible weather for 5 or 10 minutes, and then it clears quickly, and that's what happened downtown.
Exactly. And so, this hits, it moves on, and you're going to get more rain. You see there's a little bit gap between that line and the next round of rain, but that next round of rain is not severe. So if it starts raining again, like what you see here coming into Festus, this is going to come back into downtown. It's not severe. You'll get rain, we'll get some lightning. It is just this line. And along that line, I think Steve's exactly right. Quick hitting is a good term for it, because not only is it quick hitting with the packing the punch of some damaging straight line winds, but it also can quickly develop a tornado. So we have to really be on our guard along this line for any spin-ups. We're down to just 2 tornado warnings. I'll show you where those are as I put the red boxes back on the screen here. And within that area, I'm not seeing one spot over another that favors an actual tornado development. The reason why they issued this is because we were seeing circulations, they go away, then they start to come back, and it is quick hitting, and so we need to be on our guard. And there's one spot within this, though, as I go just to around east of Edwardsville and east of Glen Carbon. I'm going to switch over to the regular radar without the boxes there. I have noticed a little bit of a surge in the radar. I mentioned this earlier, right here. So coming into Hamel, there could be some really strong winds. Now, if I go down a little farther south, there's some towns I haven't mentioned. That's because we're looking for some circulations or some really damaging winds. And so I haven't mentioned these towns, but I am noticing some rotation down here in northern Randolph County. So if you're around Evansville to Redbud, we are watching this closely. What I'm looking at here is a little rotation right in here, a little hook. And there's no tornado warning on this, but I mention it because I want to help keep you ahead and show you what we are looking at. So down in that area, definitely something we're keeping a close eye on. This would be just to the southwest of Baldwin. If you're out around Sparta, which I'm covering up there, that would be just off to the west of you as well. So that little hook right there is going to be something to keep an eye on. Just because there's a hook, just because there's rotation, doesn't mean there's necessarily a tornado. You have to analyze a lot of different products with the radar and figure out how strong is that rotation, how likely is it to produce a tornado. But I'm seeing enough that I'm confident that I can at least tell you this is something we need to watch, and it's of interest. Just north of Evansville, just to the east, let's see, of Illinois Route 3, and just to the south of Highway 154. So let's get an idea of where this is going. And since I just kind of discovered this, I want to get an idea if this is moving east or northeast. So bear with me here. That really looks more northeast. And there's no tornado warning on this right now. However, trying to keep people ahead of the storm. Grigg in about 6 minutes, St. Laborie in about 27 minutes. But that would be that northern, northwestern part of Randolph County. And it could come through New Athens into southern St. Clair County. So an area of rotation I just want to keep you ahead of the game on should this turn into something and strengthen a little bit. But certainly something to watch closely. It's just to the southwest, too, of Redbud. And checking the latest scan here on the Doppler winds, there's actually a couple areas of rotation. Here's another one in southern St. Clair County. So there's like 2 spots where I just want to keep a close eye on. There's another one that's just near New Athens right now. And there's Redbud. It'd be to the southeast of Redbud for that most recent one I just told you about. So a couple spots there into northern Monroe, southern St. Clair County that I'm watching. Some hooks developing. And the reason why is because this squall line, as it continues to move east, still has the potential to create a tornado on the leading edge. And they can happen quickly. We witnessed this happen earlier where there was a weak rotation, it fizzled, and then out of nowhere, this thing intensified, I'd say within 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and boom, there it was. And that's the one that is in southern St. Charles County. That's the view from Edwardsville, where I told you there's kind of a surge of strong winds. I think that has moved east of you now because
the hail's bouncing off we've seen hail bouncing off the roof and that little small hail,
small
not
hail,
severe
right?
hail.
Yeah,
but it's been bouncing off the roof there several times, actually. I've been monitoring that site there. So there is some hail in this as well. It is below severe limits, however.
Yeah. Yeah, and see in the roof towards the bottom, thanks to our director, Blair, he spotted this. See the bottom of the black part of the roof there? You can see the little shiny white objects. That's the small hail right there. So that's a good indication. Indeed, we are getting some small hail forming right there in Edwardsville. Small hail below quarter size usually doesn't do damage. Sometimes, though, when you get a little gust of wind, nickel-sized hail can create some dents in some cars. We had that happen in Eureka a couple nights ago with some smaller size hail. But this is not a big hail threat. This is a damaging straight-line wind threat with the potential that tornadoes could develop very quickly. Kim St. Ange, News 4's Kim St. Ange is on the road right now. Joe, where's she at? Is she on 270? And Glen Carbon, okay. Our crews have been all over. I mean, she was in Warrenton earlier, and now she's out near Glen Carbon. Haven't heard of any damage from that surge, but she's getting close to where that threat for any kind of damaging wind and potential for tornado is. I'm going to zoom in on this line. Again, if there's some towns that I haven't mentioned, it's because I'm focusing on where there's a threat for tornadoes to develop and where I'm seeing the threat for the strongest winds. It's one of the reasons why you see me flip over to these Doppler winds so I can get a better pinpoint on where rotation is. That rotation in O'Fallon, by the way, let's see what that has done. That is now crossing. It's still very broad. You may see a weak funnel cloud. This is the one we were talking about that was near Fairview Heights and near O'Fallon. Now, we did hear some reports of power flashes, but we haven't heard reports of any damage. So the power flashes could have come from straight line winds. But this is Highway 4 near Troy, and there's probably some broad rotation right there. And this is that rotation that there's Lebanon, Illinois, Route 4. You can see that's O'Fallon. So it kind of came up this way, and it's a broad rotation. When I say broad, it's kind of spread out wide. When it comes to tornadoes, one of the ways they develop is you tighten the rotation. You think of figure skaters when they bring their arms in, they spin faster. There's a physics principle there. The exact same thing happens in the atmosphere. When it tightens up, it gets faster. So what we're looking for is not just the broad rotation, but real tight, strong rotation that could create a tornado. I don't see it right now. It's definitely an area to watch, though. And that's what we're dealing with is all along this line. Where do we see areas of interest? They can flare up quickly, produce a tornado, and sometimes they can just fizzle out completely and new areas develop. So up around Troy, there's Illinois Route 4. We'll keep an eye on that. Again, it's very broad, but if you looked up in the sky, you might see a little bit of swirl that's kind of in between Troy and St. Jacob. So it's really east of Troy and more like it getting into the marine area. As far as warning goes right now, we have one tornado warning left. One tornado warning left on this. And it stretches from Madison County up into southern Macoupin County. Now, while I say that's where the tornado warning is, that's not to say we can't get another one here. So I will let you know, and I mentioned that hook down to the south, that's in northern Randolph County. No tornado warning on that right now. I will let you know if things change, but if you're in Belleville, if you're in O'Fallon, it is a severe thunderstorm warning that you are under, and I'm not seeing any real significant rotation, but significant strong winds that can do some damage. So let's get a track on this line off to the northeast. You're looking from Centerville, by the way, just south of where I'm tracking in the Metro East. That's one of our News 4 crews. We've got them spread out across the area along with BJC Skycam Network, and we just want to be there. If something really bad happens, we want to report on it, but we want to keep our crews, like Alexis Zotos right there in Centerville, safe and in a good spot. And she's in a good spot right now. So tracking, this is the line that's still in the tornado warning. The reason we're still on the air here, Staunton in about 4 minutes, Highland in about 9 minutes. I'm not tracking where a tornado is going to hit your house. What I'm tracking is this line that could produce a spin up and a tornado, but we don't have any one spot where we see that threat is really high right now. That's the situation we've been in all day. And what we have to do is just stay vigilant and continue to watch these things and see if anything does flare up. I'm checking right now. That one that I mentioned coming into Marine is very broad. There's a surge of strong winds that are coming into Alhambra, hitting Warden right now, but I don't see any rotation there. That's noteworthy.
Around Troy, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Been
just to the east of Troy is where I was noticing the best chance, and I still think it's a broad rotation. I know looking at because I put a storm track in, I have those boxes on there, but let me get rid of that for you. We hearing anything new?
That's the area they're watching.
Okay.
Is that area around Troy. Specifically.
And this is News 4's Kim St. Ange, who's actually in between Glen Carbon and Troy. So her location is actually in a pretty good spot. She's probably somewhere over here. And that rotation is even weaker right here.
Yeah.
Even weaker, yep. And that's just the way it's going to go. Things are going to flare up, fizzle out. One of the things we want to do, though, is make sure that we keep our crews kind of on the back side of this line right now, because since we're already in the backside, let's keep them there. That way we avoid this part of the line, which is going to be the severe part. And if you're wondering, well, if that's a severe part, where is it headed next? Here's a track for you, off to the northeast. And again, we still have a tornado warning on the northern flank of this line. St. Jacob now, Highland in about 7 minutes, Aveston, Illinois in about 14 minutes. I mentioned our crews, News 4's Kim St. Ange, you've been all over the place, and now you're in Illinois right now. Tell me what you're seeing and where you're at.
Heavy downpour right now, yeah. So we're not too far from Glen Carbon. That's actually where we were headed. No hail just yet, but this rain is really pounding down. We actually just drove through a bunch of standing water. I wish you could have seen that. It was actually kind of crazy. And that's the importance I was saying of just going slow. A lot of people just taking their time pulling over here. We've noticed the rain picking up as we got